North and South Korea fire missiles off each other's coast for the first time. Hi everyone, welcome to AR News. North and South Korea have both fired missiles landing in the water off each other's coast for the first time. Seoul returned on the Wednesday 3 hours after Pyongyang launched a missile on the and landed less than 60 kilometers off South City Sokcho. The Southern military said it was an unacceptable breach of its territory. It fired 3 air-to-ground missiles in response, which officially said landed similar distance past the northern limit line (NLL). The demarcation line marks the rough midway point in the sea between North and South Korea, but North has never accepted the boundary. On Tuesday, North Korea warned South Korea and the US would pay the most horrible price in history if they continued joint military drills, seen as a veiled threat to use nuclear weapons. The North is expected to resume nuclear weapons testing soon after 5 years break, with US and South Korea intelligence saying Pyongyang has completed all the necessary preparations. Kim Jong-un whipping the pressure. The tit-for-tat missile launch come during a period of national mourning in South Korea following the crowd crush in Seoul at the weekend, which killed more than 150 people. North Korea fired at least 10 missiles in both east and west direction on Wednesday. South Korean officials says at least one of the missiles launched before 9 landed 26 kilometers south of border, 57 east of Sokcho and 167 northwest of Ulleung Island. It triggered air raid sirens on Ulleung, where residents were told to evacuate underground shelters. The launch was picked up immediately by South Korean and Japanese authorities, who swiftly commended the escalation from Pyongyang. South Korean's President Yoon Suk-yeol labeled it an effective territorial invasion, although the missile landed outside South Korean territory water, and vowed a swift and firm response. Under international law, countries can only establish territory claim to 12 nautical miles of sea bordering their land. Mr. Yoon has made it a policy to make a tough line on North Korea. Around 3 hours later, the South fired 3 precision air-to-ground missiles from warplane into the water of North Korea's east coast. The fringes are marked escalation in hostiles across the peninsula this year, which has already witnessed over 50 missiles launched from North Korea, including one ballistic missile that passes over Japan. On Monday, a US nuclear-powered submarine arrived off the coast of South Korea as part of joint US-Korean drills, which began in August. Biden-Vance election denial is part of chaos. US President Joe Biden has warned any candidates who refuse to accept defeat in next week's midterm selection could set the nation on the path of chaos. He also urged Americans to unite in opposition to political violence in the vote of 8 November. Mr. Biden, a Democrat, said former President Donald Trump and his supporters were peddling lies of conspiracy and malice. Republicans hit back that Mr. Biden was seeking to divide and deflect control of both chambers of Congress and key state governorship and hanging in the balance in next week's election. Most forecasts suggest Republicans will win control of the House of Representatives, while the Senate could go either way. Mr. Biden spoke in national televised remark on Wednesday evening at Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, just a few streets from where Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol last year in the attempt to overturn the results of 2020 elections. Mr. Biden blamed Mr. Trump, who did not name but referred to as the defeat former president. for inspiring threats by some Republicans candidates to refuse to accept the outcome should they lose next week. That is the path to chaos in America, said Mr. Biden. It's unprecedented, it's unlawful, and it's un-American. The president also sought to link Mr. Trump's elections rhetoric to hammer attack last week on husband of US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. He argued that Mr. Trump's big lie that the election of 2020 had been stolen was driving force behind both the assault on 82 years old Paul Pelosi and the US Capitol riot. It's a lie that fueled the dangerous rise in political violence and voters' imitation over the past 2 years, said Mr. Biden. The president spoke as a federal judge in Arizona issued a restraining order against a group of Trump supporters, sometimes armed or wearing ballistic vests, who have been accused of harassing voters near ballot boxes in the border states. The US government last week distributed a bulletin to law enforcement agencies warning of the heightened threat of domestic violence extremism, adding the candidates and election workers could be targeted by individuals with ideology grievance. Republicans reacted to Mr. Biden's remark by arguing he was trying to distract Americans from his low approval rating and US inflation. House Republicans Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, who would become Speaker of the lower chamber of Congress should his party win control next week, tweeted, President Biden is trying to deflect at time when Americans needs to unite because he can't talk about his policies that have driven up the cost of living. The American people aren't buying it. A Reuters or Ipsos opinion poll this week found that half of Americans believe voter fraud is a widespread problem, even though such cases are extremely rare.